Silence. That's all you hear before the bullet hits. The Great Silence wasn't just another Western. It was a funeral in the snow. No happy ending, no hero riding off into the sunset, just cold, death, and a director who refused to play by Hollywood's rules. But behind that frozen wasteland on screen, chaos ruled the set. The star couldn't speak his lines. The villain terrorized everyone. And the ending, it nearly destroyed the film before anyone saw it. These are 20 weird facts about The Great Silence. And the bonus? There's an alternate ending so different, most fans don't even know it exists. Bundle up. This ride gets cold fast. Most Westerns lived under the blazing sun. Dust, tumbleweeds, desert heat baking every frame. But Sergio Corbucci looked at that formula and said no. He wanted something nobody had seen before. A Western drowning in snow. Not just a little powder for atmosphere. He wanted a blizzard, a frozen hell where gunfighters couldn't feel their trigger fingers and bounty hunters turned into ice sculptures. The studio thought he was insane. Italy didn't have locations like that. They'd have to travel. They'd have to risk everything on weather they couldn't control. And what if audiences rejected it? What if people wanted their Westerns hot, not frozen? Corbucci didn't care. He'd just watched Django become a cult phenomenon, his brutal, mud-soaked revenge tale that proved Westerns could be darker, meaner, and still find an audience. But even Django had limits. It played by certain rules. The hero won. Evil got punished. Justice, however bloody, prevailed. For The Great Silence, Corbucci wanted to break every rule he hadn't already shattered. No justice, no hope, just snow covering the bodies. And if the studio wouldn't give him the budget to make it comfortable, fine. He'd make everyone suffer for real. Cast, crew, cameras, everyone would freeze together. Because the cold wasn't just a setting, it was a character. And it was about to become the most memorable thing anyone had ever seen in a Western. Jean-Louis Trintignant wasn't the first choice for Silence. He wasn't even the second. Corbucci wanted someone with star power, someone whose name alone could open the film across Europe. He approached several actors. Some read the script and loved it. Others took one look at the ending and walked away. Too depressing, they said. Too risky. No audience wants to watch the hero die. But Trintignant, he understood something the others missed. Silence wasn't just a character, he was a ghost. A mute gunslinger haunted by a throat slashed in childhood, unable to scream, unable to speak, moving through the world like a phantom seeking revenge on bounty hunters who destroyed lives for profit. Trintignant saw the poetry in that, the tragedy. And when Corbucci offered him the role, he said yes without hesitation. But there was a problem. Trintignant was a French actor, known for new wave films, not spaghetti westerns. He didn't ride horses well, he'd never done action scenes. And the physical demands of shooting in sub-zero temperatures, that was something no amount of dramatic training could prepare him for. Still, he showed up ready to freeze, ready to suffer, ready to become a man who couldn't speak but somehow said everything. What nobody knew yet was just how much that silence would cost him, or how it would become the most haunting performance in any Western ever made. Klaus Kinski didn't audition for the role of Loco, the sadistic bounty hunter who serves as the film's villain. He just walked onto the set one day and Corbucci knew. This was the man. Kinski had a reputation. Violent, unpredictable, terrifying to work with. Directors whispered warnings about him. Actors refused to share scenes. He'd exploded on sets before, screaming, throwing props, once even pulling a gun on a crew member during a dispute. But Corbucci wasn't afraid. He wanted that danger. He wanted someone who felt genuinely threatening, someone the audience would believe could kill without hesitation or remorse. And Kinski delivered. From the moment cameras rolled, he inhabited Loco completely. The cold smile, the dead eyes, the way he moved through scenes like a predator stalking wounded prey. But off camera, the terror continued. Kinski fought with Corbucci constantly. He refused direction. He rewrote his own dialogue, delivering lines in a clipped, menacing cadence that made everyone uncomfortable. During one heated argument, he threatened to quit. Corbucci called his bluff. Kinski stayed. Because deep down, both men understood something. This role, this film, it was perfect for Kinski's particular brand of madness. He wasn't playing a villain. He was unleashing something real, something dark. And every single person on that set felt it. The fear wasn't acting, it was survival. And Kinski, he loved every second of it. The snow wasn't fake. Corbucci insisted on real locations with real winter conditions, so the production traveled to the Dolomites, high in the Italian Alps, where temperatures regularly dropped below freezing and blizzards could strike without warning. Cast and crew arrived expecting controlled conditions, heated trailers, breaks between setups. What they got was hell. The equipment kept malfunctioning. Cameras froze mid-shot. Film stock became brittle in the cold and snapped inside the reels. Lights died, generators failed, and the actors, they suffered most of all. Trintignant spent hours standing in knee-deep snow, wearing nothing but a thin coat and Western costume. No thermal underwear, no modern cold-weather gear, just period-accurate clothing that did almost nothing against the wind. His hands turned blue. His lips cracked and bled. Between takes, crew members would rush in with blankets, trying to warm him up before the next shot. But Corbucci kept pushing. One more take, one more angle. The cold has to feel real, he'd say. The audience has to see the suffering. And they did. Every breath of vapor, every shiver, every moment where Trintignant's eyes betrayed the physical agony he was enduring. It's all there on screen. Authentic, brutal, unforgettable. The snow wasn't a special effect. It was a weapon Corbucci used against everyone, and it turned The Great Silence into something no other Western had ever achieved. A film that looked like it was freezing to death right in front of you.
C'è un uomo che fa tremare I cacciatori di taglie quando lo incontra.
The town wasn't real. It was built from scratch specifically for the film. A ramshackle collection of wooden buildings erected in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by snow-covered mountains with no civilization for miles. Production designers worked for weeks constructing facades, interiors, false storefronts. Everything looked weathered, beaten down by harsh winters and harsher men. But there was a problem. The remote location meant no infrastructure, no plumbing, no heat, no nearby hotels or restaurants. Cast and crew had to lodge in a small village at the base of the mountain, then travel up narrow, treacherous roads every morning before dawn. Some days, the roads became impassable. Blizzards trapped everyone on location for hours, sometimes overnight, huddled in the fake buildings that offered no real protection from the elements. Food ran low, tempers flared. Actors and crew members got sick, developing colds, flu, hypothermia symptoms. The production medic worked constantly, treating frostbite, checking for signs of serious cold-related injuries. Corbucci refused to shut down. They were behind schedule, behind budget, and the snow, which made everything beautiful on camera, was actively trying to kill them off camera. One night, a severe storm hit. Wind tore through the fake town, ripping off sections of wall, collapsing part of the saloon set. By morning, the damage looked like a real disaster had struck, but Corbucci looked at the destruction and smiled. "Perfect," he said. "Now it looks authentic. Leave it." And they did. The wreckage became part of the film's visual language, a world falling apart at the seams, just like everyone making it. Ennio Morricone's score wasn't what anyone expected. Morricone had already revolutionized Western soundtracks with his work on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and A Fistful of Dollars. His music defined the genre, operatic and bold, full of trumpets, guitars, and that distinctive whistle that became iconic. But for The Great Silence, Corbucci wanted something different, something melancholic, haunting. Morricone delivered a composition unlike anything he'd done before. Slow, mournful strings, a wordless female voice drifting through the cold like a ghost. No triumphant horns, no thundering drums, just sadness, loss. The music didn't celebrate the West, it mourned it. When Corbucci first heard the main theme, he sat in silence afterward. Not because he disliked it, because it was perfect, too perfect. The score captured everything the film was trying to say without dialogue. It made the violence hurt more. It made the ending unbearable. And audiences, they felt it. Years later, filmmakers would point to Morricone's work on The Great Silence as some of his finest, most emotionally devastating compositions. Quentin Tarantino became obsessed with the soundtrack, eventually using pieces of it in The Hateful Eight decades later. But in 1968, when the film first played in Italian theaters, audiences weren't ready for music that didn't give them hope. The score, like everything else about The Great Silence, refused to comfort. It only reminded you that in this world, in this snow, nobody was coming to save you. And the silence after the final note, that was the real horror. Realizing the music was the only warmth you'd feel. The gun used by Silence wasn't a prop. It was a real Mauser C96. a semi-automatic pistol known for its distinctive broom handle grip and wooden holster that doubled as a stock. Corbucci specifically chose this weapon because it looked different from traditional Western revolvers. More modern, more efficient, more like something a professional killer would carry. But there was a problem. The extreme cold affected the gun's mechanism. During several scenes, the Mauser jammed or misfired. Not blanks failing to fire, but the entire action freezing up mid-scene. The armorer had to constantly maintain the weapon, keeping it warm between takes, applying special lubricants that wouldn't solidify in sub-zero temperatures. In one pivotal shootout, Trintignant drew the Mauser and pulled the trigger. Nothing. The gun had frozen solid. Cameras kept rolling. Trintignant stayed in character, his face showing no emotion, no frustration. He simply lowered the weapon and waited. Corbucci yelled cut. They heated the gun, reset, and tried again. This time, it worked. But the moment of failure, that split second of mechanical betrayal, it reminded everyone just how unforgiving the environment was. Even weapons, objects designed to function under stress, couldn't survive the cold. And if guns couldn't be trusted, what chance did people have? That paranoia, that sense of being betrayed by everything around you, it seeped into the film's DNA. You can feel it in every scene. The world of the Great Silence isn't just hostile, it's fundamentally broken, and no amount of firepower can fix it. The scene where bounty hunters massacre an entire family wasn't in the original script, at least not the way it was ultimately filmed. Corbucci had written a more conventional sequence, quick cuts, implied violence, the standard approach studios preferred to avoid excessive brutality. But when they arrived on location and began blocking the scene, something changed. Maybe it was the cold sharpening everyone's cruelty. Maybe it was Kinski's intensity infecting the atmosphere. Or maybe Corbucci simply realized this moment needed to hurt more than anything that came before. He rewrote it on the spot, made it longer, more explicit, more devastating. The bounty hunters wouldn't just kill, they'd take their time, they'd enjoy it. And the family, they'd die slowly, desperately, in front of their children. The crew resisted. "This is too much," someone said. "Audiences will walk out." Corbucci's response was simple. "Good. Let them walk out. Let them feel something. Because if they don't feel this, if they don't understand the horror these people faced, then the rest of the film means nothing." So they shot it. Every brutal second. No music, minimal sound, just snow, gunfire, and screaming. When the sequence appeared in test screenings, some viewers did walk out. Others sat in stunned silence. Critics called it gratuitous, exploitative, unnecessary. But Corbucci defended it. "This is what violence actually looks like," he said. "Not choreographed, not heroic, just cruel and random and permanent." The scene stayed in the film, and it remains one of the most difficult, unflinching depictions of Western violence ever put on screen. No glory, no justice, just bodies in the snow and survivors who will never stop shaking.
Resta soltanto il silenzio e la morte.
The love story between Silence and Pauline wasn't originally part of the script. Corbucci's first draft focused purely on revenge, a mute gunslinger systematically eliminating bounty hunters who preyed on the desperate and starving. No romance, no emotional connection beyond professional obligation. But during rehearsals, something unexpected happened. Vanetta McGee, cast as Pauline, the widow seeking vengeance for her husband's murder, and Trintignant developed an on-screen chemistry that couldn't be ignored. Not sexual tension exactly, but something deeper. Two wounded people recognizing pain in each other. Two survivors clinging to the last fragments of humanity in a world designed to crush them. Corbucci saw it. He pulled McGee aside and asked if she'd be willing to play more than just a client. Could Pauline love Silence? Could she see past his disability, his violence, his isolation, and find something worth saving? McGee said yes, but she had conditions. The romance couldn't be traditional. No sweeping declarations, no triumphant kiss at the end. If Pauline loves Silence, it's quiet, desperate, born from shared trauma, not Hollywood fantasy. Corbucci agreed. He rewrote key scenes, adding moments of tenderness between the carnage. Pauline touching Silence's scarred throat, him protecting her not just because he's paid, but because she matters. The changes elevated the entire film, because now when the ending arrives, when the tragedy strikes, it doesn't just kill characters, it destroys love, hope, the possibility of redemption. And that, Corbucci realized, was the cruelest thing he could do to an audience, give them something beautiful in all that cold. then take it away forever. The ending destroyed everything. Not the film, the audience. Westerns didn't end like this. Heroes didn't lose. Good didn't fail. But Corbucci refused to compromise. In the final sequence, Silence faces Loco and his gang in a showdown that should follow Western tradition. The mute gunslinger against impossible odds, drawing first, shooting true, walking away victorious while his enemies fall. Except that's not what happens. Silence reaches for his gun. Loco's gang opens fire first. Silence drops. Blood spreads across the snow. And then they kill Pauline too. Then they murder everyone who tried to help. The bounty hunters win. Evil triumphs. The credits roll over corpses. When Italian audiences first saw this ending, theaters erupted. Not in applause, in anger. People shouted at the screen. Some threw objects. Others demanded refunds. Critics savaged it. How dare Corbucci betray Western conventions? How dare he kill the hero and let villains walk away laughing? But Corbucci stood firm. This was always the point. The Great Silence wasn't about heroic individualism saving the day. It was about systems of violence, about how institutional cruelty grinds good people into dust, about how sometimes there is no justice, no redemption, no happy ending, just snow covering the bodies and the world moving on like nothing happened. The ending made The Great Silence legendary and unmarketable. Distributors refused to show it in certain countries. American release got delayed for decades, but over time, that uncompromising bleakness became the film's greatest strength. Because long after other westerns faded from memory, The Great Silence stayed. Cold, brutal, unforgettable, refusing to lie about what violence actually costs, and refusing to apologize for telling the truth. There's an alternate ending, and it's everything the original isn't. After audiences rioted in Italian theaters, distributors panicked. They demanded Corbucci shoot something, anything, that would let them market the film to broader audiences. Corbucci refused. Then the threats came. No distribution deal, no international release. The film would die in Italy. Reluctantly, he agreed to shoot a compromise. In this version, Silence survives the final shootout. Wounded but alive, he eliminates Loco's gang one by one. Pauline lives. The sheriff arrives just in time. Justice prevails. Freeze frame, end credits. It's competent, professional, completely hollow. Corbucci shot it in a single day, barely hiding his contempt. He used the footage only for certain markets, primarily France, where distributors insisted on commercial viability. But he never considered it the real ending. Neither did audiences. When critics discovered both versions existed, they universally declared the bleak ending superior. The happy version disappeared into archives, rarely seen, barely acknowledged, because it proved something Corbucci already knew. You can't have it both ways. Either The Great Silence means something, or it means nothing. And meaning requires consequences. Real ones. Permanent ones. The kind that don't dissolve with a last-minute rescue. Vanetta McGee almost died during filming. Not from hypothermia, though that was a constant threat. Not from accidents, though plenty happened. She nearly drowned. One scene required Pauline to cross a partially frozen stream. Water flowing beneath thin ice. Snow piling on both banks. Corbucci wanted the shot to feel dangerous. It succeeded. McGee stepped onto the ice. It cracked. She plunged into freezing water. The current, stronger than anyone anticipated, pulled her under immediately. Crew members screamed. Trintignant, standing nearby, dove in without hesitation. He grabbed her coat, hauled her toward the bank. Others formed a human chain, pulling them both to safety. McGee was conscious but shaking violently. Lips blue, unable to speak. They wrapped her in blankets, rushed her to the village, called a doctor. Mild hypothermia. She'd survive. But it was close. Too close. Corbucci visited her that night, apologetic, shaken. McGee told him something that stayed with him forever. "I'm coming back tomorrow. If Silence can survive, so can I." And she did. The next morning, McGee returned to set, still recovering, still cold, but refusing to quit. That resilience, that strength, it bled into her performance. Pauline wasn't just written as a survivor, she was played by one, and every scene afterward carried that weight. The town set burned down, not during filming, after. Production wrapped in late winter. Crew packed equipment, dismantled what they could salvage, left the rest standing. Local authorities said they'd handle demolition. Months passed, nothing happened. The fake town sat empty, slowly decaying, wood rotting under spring rain and summer sun. Then one night, fire. Then one night, witnesses reported seeing flames visible for miles, the entire structure consumed in hours. Arson was suspected, but never proven. Some said local teenagers, bored and reckless, torched it for fun. Others claimed vagrants seeking warmth accidentally started the blaze. A few whispered darker theories. Maybe someone connected to the film wanted it gone, wanted to erase evidence of the suffering that happened there. Corbucci heard about the fire weeks later. He didn't seem surprised. He told friends the set was cursed from the beginning. Too much cold, too much pain, too much real violence bleeding into fictional violence. Better that it burned, he said. Better that nothing remains, because some places shouldn't be preserved. They should be forgotten. The ashes scattered, the memories buried under snow. And yet the film survived, the one permanent record of that temporary hell. Every frame still frozen, still waiting to hurt anyone brave enough to watch. Klaus Kinski hated the cold more than anyone. Despite playing a villain who seemed immune to suffering, Kinski spent every break complaining, shouting at crew members, demanding impossible accommodations. He wanted heated tents, thermal underwear, hot beverages delivered constantly. Corbucci gave him nothing. This infuriated Kinski. He threatened to quit daily. Once, during a particularly brutal blizzard, he stormed off set, vanished into the snow, refused to return. Production halted. Hours passed. Crew members searched, worried he'd gotten lost, frozen somewhere in the wilderness. Then someone spotted him in the village, sitting in a bar, drinking wine, perfectly comfortable. Corbucci went down personally. The confrontation was legendary. Screaming, threats. Kinski threw a glass. Corbucci threw one back. Finally, an agreement. Kinski would return, finish the film, but only if Corbucci admitted something. What? That I'm the only real artist here. That without me, this film is nothing. Corbucci paused, then smiled. You're absolutely right, Klaus. You're the only real artist. Now get back to work. Kinski returned. Whether he believed Corbucci's concession or simply ran out of wine, nobody knows. But his performance never suffered. If anything, his misery enhanced it. Loco wasn't just cruel. He was genuinely cold inside, dead, empty. And Kinski, freezing and furious, channeled that emptiness perfectly. The film's distributor cut 15 minutes for international release, not for content, for pacing. American and British distributors thought European audiences would tolerate the slow, deliberate rhythm, but English-speaking markets needed something tighter, faster, more conventionally edited. Corbucci fought the cuts. Every deleted scene mattered. Character moments, silences that built tension, shots of snow and landscape that established the oppressive atmosphere. But distributors won. They carved out entire sequences, tightened others, reshuffled the order of certain scenes. The result played faster but felt hollow. Critics who saw both versions noted the difference immediately. The cut version was competent but lost the film's soul. That deliberate pacing wasn't slow, it was suffocating. Every long take forced audiences to sit with discomfort, to feel time passing differently in a frozen wasteland where seconds stretched into eternity. Without those moments, The Great Silence became just another Western. Violent but forgettable. For decades, only the butchered version circulated outside Italy. Then in the 1990s, restoration efforts uncovered the original cut. New prints struck. The complete film finally released internationally. And suddenly, everything made sense. The Great Silence wasn't poorly paced. It was perfectly paced for what it wanted to accomplish, making you suffer alongside everyone on screen, minute by frozen minute, until the end came like mercy. Jean-Louis Trintignant never watched the film, not at the premiere, not at festivals, not during his lifetime. People asked why. He'd give vague answers, too painful, too personal, too much suffering compressed into 90 minutes. But friends said the real reason was simpler. He didn't need to watch. He'd lived it. Every frozen morning. Every scene where his hands shook from cold, not performance. Every moment Corbucci pushed him further than he thought possible. Trintignant believed some experiences shouldn't be revisited. Creating silence required becoming him. Embracing muteness, isolation, violence. And after filming Wrapped, Trintignant wanted distance. He returned to French cinema. Sophisticated dramas, comfortable productions, normal directors who didn't treat hypothermia as a character development tool. But he never regretted The Great Silence. He told interviewers it taught him something essential, that acting wasn't about technique, it was about endurance, surviving conditions that wanted to break you, then finding truth inside that survival. Silence, he said, was the most honest performance he ever gave, because there was nothing between him and the cold, no craft, no tricks, just a man freezing to death slowly, killing people who deserved it, loving someone he couldn't save, and knowing from the first frame how it would end. Trintignant understood. Some films, you live once, then move on, or they consume you completely. The Great Silence was banned in Spain under Franco's dictatorship, not for violence, for politics. Spanish censors recognized something dangerous in Corbucci's film. It wasn't just about bounty hunters and gunfighters, it was about systems, about how legal violence, sanctioned by authority, destroys innocent people, about how men with badges commit atrocities and call it law. Franco's regime saw the parallel immediately. This wasn't entertainment, it was criticism, a Western that questioned authorities' right to kill, that portrayed legal killers as villains and outlaws as victims. Unacceptable. The ban lasted years. Underground screenings happened occasionally, poor quality prints smuggled across borders, shown in basements to small audiences who understood the risk. Getting caught meant interrogation, possibly arrest, but people watched anyway. Because under dictatorship, a film about institutionalized violence hits different. It stops being metaphor, it becomes documentary. After Franco's death, The Great Silence finally received official Spanish release. New generation discovered it, and they understood immediately why it had been forbidden, because Corbucci didn't just make a Western, he made a warning about what happens when killing becomes bureaucracy, when murder gets paperwork, when the worst people alive hide behind legitimacy. The Great Silence said something simple. The law isn't always right, and sometimes the only moral choice is resistance, even doomed resistance. Even resistance that ends in snow and blood and silence. Morricone's score almost didn't happen, not because of creative differences, because of money. The production was hemorrhaging funds, location costs exploded, weather delays destroyed the schedule. By the time they needed music, the budget was gone. Corbucci went to Morricone personally, explained the situation, offered whatever remained. It wasn't much. Morricone could have walked. He was already famous, already in demand. He didn't need another low-budget Italian Western, but he read the script, watched rough footage, and said yes, not for money, for the film. Because Morricone recognized something rare, a Western that actually meant something, that tried to say something true about violence and systems and the cost of survival. He composed the score in weeks, recording with a small orchestra, minimal instrumentation, just enough to capture the melancholy Corbucci wanted. The haunting main theme, that wordless female voice drifting through strings, that became iconic. Morricone later called it some of his proudest work, not because it was complex, because it was honest. The music didn't lie, it didn't promise redemption, it just mourned. For silence, for Pauline, for everyone who dies when the world decides they're expendable. And that honesty, that refusal to comfort, made the score as uncompromising as the film itself. Morricone could have taken easy money elsewhere. Instead, he chose truth and helped create something neither of them would ever forget. American distribution didn't happen until 2001, 33 years after the film's Italian premiere. Not because nobody tried. Multiple distributors acquired rights over the decades, planning releases that never materialized. The ending was always the problem. How do you market a Western where the hero dies, where evil wins, where audiences leave the theater devastated? Test screenings repeatedly failed. American viewers wanted closure, justice, something to make the suffering worthwhile. The Great Silence offered none of that, so it languished. Bootleg VHS tapes circulated among cinephiles, poor quality, terrible dubbing, but enough to build a cult reputation. Tarantino championed it in interviews. Critics' lists included it among greatest westerns never properly released. Then in the late 90s, restoration efforts began. New prints struck from original negatives. And finally, a small distributor took a chance. Limited theatrical run, art house cinemas. The marketing didn't hide the ending, it embraced it. The Western that Hollywood was afraid to show. Audiences who came knew what they were getting, and they came anyway. Not despite the bleakness. Because of it. Because sometimes people want films that tell the truth, that don't soften violence or promise false hope. The Great Silence finally found its American audience. 3 decades late, but permanent. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the promise. And the threat. Promise. Corbucci never topped it. He made other westerns. Some successful, some forgotten. But nothing hit like The Great Silence. Nothing cut as deep or refused to compromise as completely. He knew it too. In later interviews, he'd deflect questions about his other work, always steering conversation back to this one. His masterpiece, his most uncompromising statement. People asked if he'd ever make another Western like it. Corbucci always said the same thing. I already did. Once was enough. Because The Great Silence wasn't just a film. It was a moment. A convergence of cold, cruelty, talent, and truth that couldn't be replicated. The circumstances were unique. The suffering real. The commitment absolute. You can't plan that. You can't manufacture it. You just survive it, document it, hope the cameras captured something essential. And they did. Every frozen frame, every moment of violence, every second of that devastating ending. Corbucci made something permanent. Something that would outlast him, outlast everyone who froze making it, outlast the temporary set that burned to ashes. The Great Silence would endure. Not because it's entertaining, because it's true. And truth, especially cold truth, doesn't fade. It waits, buried under snow, patient, ready to ambush anyone who thinks they understand what Westerns can be. Then it destroys them, just like it destroyed that first Italian audience, just like it'll destroy you. The Mauser pistol used in the film disappeared after production wrapped, not lost, not misplaced, stolen. Someone, nobody knows who, took it from the prop truck on the last day of shooting. Corbucci was furious. That gun was iconic, integral to Silence's character. He wanted it for archives, museums, possibly future films. But it vanished. Rumors circulated for years. Some said Trintignant took it as a souvenir. He denied this. Others blamed crew members, collectors, anyone with access. The truth never emerged. And maybe that's fitting, because The Great Silence was always about things disappearing. Justice, hope, people. Why should the gun survive when nothing else did? Why should any artifact remain from a production that existed to document loss? The Mauser is gone. Like Silence. Like Pauline. Like everyone who froze making this film and everyone who freezes watching it. Just gone. Buried somewhere. Waiting under snow that never melts.